Hey YouTube, how's it going? Kevin Cleary here with a knife video for you. Now, I've got a first impressions to share with you today, but I want to use these items to make a point before we get into the first impressions that I have on the actual item I want to share with you. And that is, the things that I review on this channel, the things that we discuss, the things that I share with you are generally speaking, all right, maybe I'm being a little too generous with myself, but I'm going to say it anyway, generally speaking, pretty useful, practical stuff. All right, I can absolutely justify spending the money and spending the space in my pocket to carry all this stuff on my person. And I go, yeah, I can see why I would want this with me. And I can think of all kinds of good uses for these items. And so, you know, I go out and I get them and I share them with you and I talk about how useful they are and how practical they are. And, you know, it's not perfect in every case. I know I review some knives that are pretty expensive, and I know I review some knives that, you know, maybe have a weakness here or there, but rarely do I review something like this, all right? This is the Cold Steel Frenzy, and honestly, when I looked at this knife initially, you know, back a year or so ago when they came out, I said to myself, man, that is a cool looking knife. And, you know, I wouldn't mind checking one out, but I said to myself, you know, what are you going to use it for, right? Are you going to be able to carry it? Do you have any practical purpose for a blade of that shape in that length? And honestly, I said to myself, no, I really don't. And then I added, you know, in my little discussion with myself, look, the thing is really expensive as well. It's like $200. And that convinced me. And I said, okay, let's not bother with it. However, this past Black Friday, they had a pretty decent discount on these. And so I thought, you know what? That's a good enough price that I think I can justify buying this. And, you know, I still know what I'm going to use it for. I still can't think of any, you know, good reason to carry this around. I know it's going to be too big. I know the blade shape is not something that I really have a practical need for, but what the heck? Let's go ahead and check one out. And I've got to say, guys, that it is pretty impressive for a number of reasons. The quality, the construction, the G10, the milling on this, not the blade itself is absolutely gorgeous. I think this is one of the nicest designs that Cold Steel has had in a while. And honestly, I may as well say this now. I was going to wait till the end, but if Cold Steel made this in like a 3.5-inch blade, it would be epic, right? It would be a fantastic knife. It really would. And so if anyone from Cold Steel is watching this, please make a Frenzy 2, or I don't know what, you know, maybe this is a Frenzy 2 and you need to make a Frenzy 3, whatever. But make one of these with a 3.5-inch blade, and I think it would be a fantastic knife. You know, and this is already a fantastic knife. It's just gigantic, okay? While we're talking about that, let me grab the box here and you can read the specs. There you go, not when it's bouncing around like that. So there you go, 5.5-inch blade, 12.25 overall, 5.7 ounces, 3 3/4 inches on, or 6 3/4 inch blade. By the way, the one notable number there is 5.7 ounces. That's pretty impressive for a knife of this size. Let me throw in a couple of other knives here. I know this is not the full review, but I think most of you are familiar with the fact that the Recon 1 and the Cold Steel 4MAX are stinking big knives, right? And yet this makes them look fairly diminutive by comparison. All right, so let's get these guys out of the way. And now that I've kind of gone through the things that I like about this, the things that I appreciate about this knife, let me say, I've been giving some thought to what I was going to tell you guys. You know, first impressions, I'm supposed to give you a first impression. All right, and obviously the main first impression is this thing is stupidly big. But I did come up with one really, really practical use for this knife. All right. Now, I'm sure many of you have been there and can identify with the situation that I'm about to describe. You know, you've got some friends, and maybe they're more your wife's friends, or they're people you met sort of in a forced situation, but they've really decided that they like you and your wife, and they invite you over all the time, and they always want you to go and do stuff with them, and you're always like, you know, I'd rather stay at home. I'd rather they're not calling me all the time. Well, listen, here's what you do. the next time that annoying friend or couple calls you up and says, hey, come over to our place and have supper and watch the football game or whatever, you go get this knife off of your knife rack or out of your knife drawer or whatever, and you put it in your pocket. And when you go over there, you enjoy your nice meal. And then while you're sitting at the table, you get this knife out and you begin picking your teeth with the blade and making comments that are, just on the fringe of appropriate. All right, maybe you comment on, the wife's lack of fashion sense, or, you comment on, I don't know, how much you like Vladimir Putin and wish that, our leaders here in the Western world were a little more like him. Whatever else you want to say, it won't really matter if you're holding this knife. I doubt you'll be getting too many more invitations. And so I will say, if you want to lose some friends, all right, and scare a couple people, I think this is a great knife for that purpose. And perhaps you have a reason for that in your everyday life. Maybe you're a celebrity and people are always coming up to you and bothering you and stuff. Just start walking around with this knife out, maybe cutting an apple up or something like that. And you'll probably greatly reduce the number of people that are approaching you on the street to bother you and waste your valuable time. All right, so there you go, guys. That's my first impressions on the Cold Steel Frenzy. I promise by the time I'm ready for a full review and discussion, I will have come up with a number of other uses for this knife. I'd love if you have some uses of your own for you to share them down in the comments. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and we will talk to you soon.